Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, and that's all I have to say. He's still a top 5 quarterback in this league, and there's nothing really anyone can do about it.
Everyone's looking for the young guy. They're looking for McVay. I think take a shot out Todd Bowles, get him a second shot at head coach, and see if he can do it.
I don't think they will. If they don't have Anthony Davis, I'm saying it right now, if Anthony Davis is out for the playoffs, they don't make it out of the first round.
It's crazy. And our kids will know how great Tom Brady is because he's going to be playing.
Yes, it is 15.0%. I swear we didn't script that.
All I could think of was Dame.
6-0. There could not be a better name.
Speaking of young guys, how about the goalie, Ottinger?
He was a 6th-round pick. This is a fairy tale story that's being written in front of our eyes.
That's what the Yankees brought Garrett Cole to do.
They didn't struggle against the Padres. The Padres didn't really put up a fight in most of the games.
Jerry Jones, hope you're listening because this is why you shouldn't have given Zeke this contract. Just thought I'd point that out.
I feel like Luka will take that next step, and if he can get a 3 ball consistently around 35%, I feel like they could become a contender.
While with the Padres and Marlins, I think it's coming in the near future.
They're my pick to win the most rings in the 2020s.
I was shocked by Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, Montreal has one of the best goalies in the league with Carey Price.
People like to call them their JV team, and they just stole one of their better players.
Hi, I'm Landon Bowe, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our 50th episode. Thank you for listening to our 50 episodes. If you're brand new, make sure to check out our previous ones. Make sure to check out our last one where we did our first round mock draft, and Austin and I decided after the episode to make a little competition out of it, and it was close. It was sort of close. Austin won 11-7, going 4 for 4. Make sure to check out last episode to see what picks, and then we will explain the point system in our next episode when we go over the entire first round. And now, today, we will be doing our NHL Division Power Rankings because it doesn't make sense to do a full Power Rankings because the only teams these guys play are in their division. So we do a Division Power Rankings for this division. We will start with the North Division, and we have the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Toronto Maple Leafs have just a fantastic offense. You got Austin Matthews. He's just incredible. What are your thoughts right now, Austin?
Yeah, you can talk about Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews, and how all these old players like Joe Thornton and Jason Spezza has added to this team, or you can talk about how the defense has improved this year. But I think the real conversation has to go to Jack Campbell. They were struggling at goaltender with anybody they really tried, and then Jack Campbell came along, and that's what's helped them keep this first spot, and I definitely feel like they're the team to beat in the North.
Yeah, it's a tough matchup for whoever they face in the playoffs when they get started. But at number 2, we have the Edmonton Oilers. Edmonton I believe they made a few trades, and while Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl get most of the love, it has been a breakthrough season for defenseman Darnell Nurse. The 26-year-old could be a Norris Trophy candidate. That's what some people are thinking. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so the defense has definitely improved and allowed for them to be second in this division. But another thing has to go to the goaltender. Mike Smith, after having a terrible series against the Chicago Blackhawks, and they eventually went to Koskinen in net for the majority of that series after Game 1, where Mike Smith blew up in a bad way. Mike Smith this season has been outstanding, having one of the best years since he was a Coyote a long while ago when they made their playoff run in 2010. But he's going to need to play like he has majority of the season if they want to make it far. And I definitely feel like the Oilers, with the added benefits of having better defenders, or at least having better, more improved defensive defensemen. They always had some defensemen that could do offensive things, but they need more defense. And McDavid and Draisaitl can help with the scoring to go along with Mike Smith's great goaltending.
That's very true. At number 3, we have the Montreal Canadiens. One guy they signed in the third day of free agency is Tyler Toffoli, and he is the leader for the Canadiens in goals by a decent margin, and he signed through 2023-2024, so that's a great thing to see for the 28-year-old. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so Tyler Toffoli is someone who left the Canucks last year after having a long stint with the Kings. Toffoli almost signed back with the Canucks, but the Canucks didn't show equal interest, so he left the Canadians and really made the Canucks pay. He scored the majority of his goals this year compared to other teams against the Canucks, and he's really been a catalyst for this team. Josh Anderson's also played well. Corey Perry, who went to the finals last year uh, with the Stars, has been a nice addition. And I feel like the addition of Eric Stahl during the trade deadline was a great move. And Carey Price is starting to play better than he has at the beginning of the season, and that's why we have him above the Jets, who are the only other team that I can see making the playoffs this year in the North.
You mentioned Corey Perry, and I believe the Canadians will make it to the playoffs. Corey Perry's a great guy. He's just a gritty guy, and he's been to the playoffs a couple times. You mentioned his recent success with the Stars. I believe Corey Perry will give some veteran presence to the Canadians and to just help give some insights on what he did last year. We move to number 4, where we have the Winnipeg Jets. What are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, so the Jets have kind of fallen off after probably being the second team in the North Division during the majority of their year. But now they kind of fallen off. They need more defensive help. They've always needed that since Dustin Byfuglien's been out. And Connor Hellebuck isn't playing as well as he did last year, where he won the Vezina. But he's definitely not having a bad season. They're going to need to get it back in order, and Scheifele and his crew are going to have to maybe fend off the Toronto Maple Leafs in the first round of the playoffs if they do fall below the Canadians, who currently they are above, but according to our power rankings, they may fall below. And so if they have to face the Maple Leafs in the first round, that may be a high scoring duel, which it seems like all teams in Canada right now could score except for Ottawa.
Yeah, just to mention about the defensive, they recognize their help for defense as they got Jordy Ben, and we've talked about how his presence could help the Jets in our in our big trade down episode. Make sure to check that out. Now, the team that just misses the playoffs is the Calgary Flames, and the Calgary Flames, we have them just missing as um, it's really tough, especially with the Jets, but maybe they could sneak in. They do have Chris Tanev, who signed with them this past off season, and he's been a revelation for the Calgary. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, he's definitely played well, and Giordano hasn't played as well as he did when he won the Norris back in 2018 or 2019. But Jacob Markstrom's also played well as a goaltender this year. Calgary needed a better goaltender if they wanted to make a run, and they have acquired that. But their team's just been back and forth all year, and they've really struggled to get any consistent success. Uh, and I really don't see them making the playoffs. They would need the Canadians or the Jets to have just a terrible end of the year with their last 7 or 8 games, and for them to have any chance of moving up. But they definitely have a possibility for a bright future with Johnny Hockey and the rest of that potent offense when they are hot, John Monahan and everybody. But I just don't see them moving ahead of the Jets or Canadians because of how far they've fell behind them.
The next team we have under the Flames is the Canucks. As we mentioned, the Canucks traded Jordy Ben, and the Canucks have this is their 4th consecutive season with a really impressive rookie. What are your thoughts on the Canucks right now?
Yeah, so the Canucks, they're a really interesting team to watch because they are either good or absolutely terrible. And there's some games where you don't realize, or you don't realize they're NHL players. They don't look like they want to be there. They don't look like they have the grit and grind of a team that needs to do better. It's important for them to realize that they are a young team, and so their future should be bright with Bezer, Pedersen, and everybody else on that team. I mean, uh, with Hughes, everybody. Demko as a goaltender is really improving. So their future could be bright as long as they get everything together. But this year has just not been their year. They've had 2 COVID stops this year, and one of them lasted for 2 or 3 weeks, and that really hindered their ability to get any consistent team success. And I mean, they still have a number of games left, and so they could definitely make a run. I think they have a better chance than the Flames if they get absolutely red hot. They do have a potential to make the playoffs. However, it would have to be a run of the century. I think they have 16 or 18 games left, somewhere around there. So they would have to go insane during the last stretch. I think it's 14 actually. But they would have to go insane over the last stretch of the games and for them to have any chance of making the playoffs over the Canadians or Jets.
I like definitely run of a century, and then a team who is definitely even a run of a century. I don't think could really help them, and that is the team we have at the bottom. Is that the Ottawa Senators, a team that is definitely preparing for the future. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so Ottawa's not technically eliminated so far because they have 8 games left and they're only 11 points behind, and we all know that a win is a point, so they need 16 points, and that would only allow the Canadians to to win only what was that, 2 games or whatever. They couldn't go above 5 points for them to have a chance of making it. So Ottawa's not technically out of the playoffs. However, their season's definitely going to end after the 58 game schedule. I don't see them moving on. They need to address their goaltending issue and whether this is just a bad year for Matt Murray or the fit's just not right or if he just needs this is just a year of turmoil with COVID and everything. He just hasn't got his normal preparation in. But yeah, he's definitely not helped them. But they do have a number of great rookies. Kachuk has played much better not much better, but he's played better this season than he has his entire career. It seems like he improves every season, and so I definitely think him, Goodbranson, Zub, and all these players that are young are really going to improve. And I'm excited to see Tim Stutzla next year as he continues his improvements.
You mentioned Matt Murray having a difficult time with the Senators. This was a trade that the Senators really hope would work out, as Matt Murray has uh, won the Cup 2 times, and they gave up a second round pick for him and a prospect. Jonathan Gruden was the prospect, so that's the thing to watch. They're giving up a prospect and a pick. A team definitely looking for a rebuild, and it's not really working out. As I believe he is a restricted free agent this offseason. He's a restricted free agent October 9th, so they may face some trouble with that. But I think we can move on to the Western Division where it's so stacked. But number one, we got the Vegas Golden Knights, who are just playing really well. And Yanmark, I saw him make a couple of plays as they faced the Avalanche. What are your thoughts right now on the Vegas Golden Knights?
Oh, so the Vegas Golden Knights are a team that's really proven that they are the best team in the West. I believe that going into the season, and they've really proved it right. But the West is a division that's just like the Central, very 3 team heavy, with one team that may make the playoffs, may not, in a very close race. Um, Even though the Blues have played much less games than the Coyotes. But these 3 teams at the top are really contending for that one seed and really contending to make it out of the Western Division. I only think 3 teams can. I really don't think the Blues or Arizona or whoever gets that last seed has much of a chance to beat Vegas and then either Colorado or Minnesota in the next round. But Vegas, to go on them, they've had a tremendous year from Marc-Andre Fleury, a real bounce back year, a potential best year of his career. He's definitely up there for a Vezina candidacy, and the trade for uh, what's his name, Petrangelo from the Blues has been outstanding this year. And Mark Stone's probably had the best year of his career after having an outstanding stint in Ottawa. He was traded, I think, in 2019, and he's been amazing for them. And so I'm really impressed by Max Pacioretty and Riley Smith, and all these guys are really turning it up. And I fully expect them to be the team to beat in the Western Division.
And it was in 2019. If you wanted to do the date, it'd be February 25th,
I don't know
2019.
that, Kevin. I can't go that in depth, but I'll give you the year, but I can't give
Well,
you
yeah,
the
you're
date.
correct on the year. I think you can strive for maybe let's try for the month next time we think about a
Okay,
trade.
I got you. I got you.
There, as Austin tries to climb limits that no analyst has reached before, I will just try to work on the year. So we'll see how that. But we can talk about number two. We have the Colorado Avalanche, as you mentioned, great, and they've made a few key moves just to get some previous guys, Soderberg being one of them, to come back, and they faced it. It's I would be shocked if the finale of the West, because I think they have to play each other before they go on again. I'm not sure how that works, but I'd be shocked if it's not Vegas versus Colorado in like the second round of the division in the playoffs. If that's how it's going to work out. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's definitely how it's going to work. It's going to be the 1 versus the 4, and then the 2 versus the 3, and then the winner of those two will play the 1 or the 4, and then the 2 will play the winner of the 2 3 will play the 1 4, and then they would go on to play another division. I think the West will play the Central, I believe. I think, and then North will play the East, I believe. I don't really know how that works right now. They haven't fully. Oh, I haven't fully gained understanding of how the entire playoff works. I just know that they're going to play all the teams in their division until there's one team left. But yeah, Colorado is definitely the second best team in this division, even though Minnesota is very close. And I definitely consider the Wild a contender. But Colorado, Gabriel Landeskog has played outstanding this year. I've really been impressed by his improvement, and it's really added to the combination of him and Nathan MacKinnon. Um, to be honest, they're another team that's faced a lot of potential stoppages of play because of COVID. Cale Makar is a Norris candidate and has played well in his young career after his UMass tenure. And I'm really impressed. Rantaden's another player that's playing very well this year. Leads the team in goals with 27. And so I think this is definitely, like I said, one of those 3 teams that I think could win the West. And they're definitely contending right there for the 1 seed with Vegas.
Yeah. Well said. Number 3, we got the Minnesota Wild, who I can just think of the great rookie that's been on a tears for goals, and that is Kaprizov. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so Kirill Kaprizov has played amazing, and he's definitely my pick for the Calder. I'm sorry, Kevin, Jason Robertson. I just don't see it. I just think it's because of the record. He leads the team in points. He's one of the best teams in one of the best divisions. Um, they have much more points than the Stars, and I just feel like his contributions have just been much more impactful than Jason Robertson's has. Even though Jason Robertson's had an amazing year, Kaprizov leads the team in goals and points. And Jordan Greenway has played outstanding this year. Many people forget that he's on the team. Sometimes that's really a travesty because of how well he's played this year. A big dude that normally you don't expect to get as many points from a winger who looks like just a presence out there to be an enforcer or a grinder. But he's really improved this year, and I'm really excited to see how he plays during the playoffs, especially if they do play Colorado in the first round, which is really looking like what it's going to be.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a long shot for Robertson to win, but I agree Kaprizov is probably going to win it. So I think we can move on to the St. Louis Blues. The St. Louis Blues played really well. They made an incredible comeback against the Minnesota Wild. And I think they're definitely going to win this 4 spot, but it's definitely a tough matchup, as you mentioned before, that they face Vegas.
Yeah, so I don't see that they can make it out of the first round against Vegas or Colorado or the Wild, whoever get that first seed, but it definitely looks like it's going to be Vegas. Another thing to add for Minnesota that's been different from the Blues is their goaltending. I think the real difference is the Wild has gone for goaltending and the Blues have really lost all that. They had a great stint from Binnington during the playoffs in 2019 that won them a cup, but he hasn't really been the same ever since. And I think that's a real difference, and I especially how Fleury's playing for Vegas. If the Blues aren't absolutely red hot, I don't they could potentially be swept or won and lost 5 games. But I definitely think they're better than the Coyotes or the Sharks or the Kings or any other team in this division. The Ducks are the only other team, but any other team that's below them, I just don't see how they could pass this team because the Blues have played less games and have more points, and so the Blues would have to have another terrible end to the season for them to have a chance of dropping out of this playoff spot.
And now we have, after the St. Louis Blues, we have Arizona. Arizona is a team that this season has been a showcase for Jacob Chitron. Finally healthy after a series of tough injuries. 2021-year-old is shouldering a number 1 defenseman minutes while leading all the blue liners in the league with 14 goals. That's a good thing to see. What are your thoughts on the Coyotes right now?
Yeah, so the Coyotes, Chikrin, that's his name. Chikrin has 16 goals this year now. He scored, I think, twice last night against Vegas, but he's an amazing defender and definitely should be in a Norris conversation. But he's really impressed me. He has 36 points this year. He's second on the team behind Phil Kessel with 38. And I mean, it's just impressive to see Chikrin after, like you said, all these injuries really coming to his own. Darcy Kemper's also had a good season, not great, and Ranta's also played well. They've really had with him and Aiden Hill and Ranta and Kemper, like I was saying, that's a pretty good three person goalie tandem that really is propelled them into the contention for a playoff spot. And while I don't see how they can get it, um, I definitely believe that they have a bright future as long as they can keep Chikrin healthy, continue to improve this offense, which really has been stagnant for years now, and make sure that their goaltending can at least stay competent.
Yeah, very great points. I think we can move on to San Jose, who's definitely looking for the future. So we have below the Coyotes. What are your thoughts right now?
Yeah, so their goalie situation has been questionable. They traded Devin Dubnyk after having a very uninspiring tenure with him. Um, I've really been impressed by Patrick Marleau. I mean, he got the most games played in NHL history, and he seems fast for a player who's 43. And I don't think speed's going to be the reason why he leaves if he does leave after this season. But they had a hot stretch in there where Couture and Evander Kane were really going off and propelling this team, along with Brent Burns and Carlson, to almost a playoff spot. But they've really fallen down after that, and I don't see them making a playoff push. They definitely could, and they're definitely not out of it the playoffs right now, but they would need a miracle run for them to have any chance.
And below them, we have the LA Kings. What are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, so the Kings have had a great start to the year, but I mean, it was uh, they just had a tough run. Kopitar had an amazing stretch at the beginning of the season, but the effect of just age and how this team was going at the beginning of the year just could not stay. Dustin Brown's had a good season, but they traded Jeff Carter, one of the catalysts for all their playoff runs, and this really seems like a rebuilding team for the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, but they do have some nice pieces. And one of those is the 26-year-old goaltender, Cal Peterson. Peterson has started more games than the other goalie, Jonathan Quick, and has a significantly better percentage with .917 to .893. But I think we can move on to the last team in the division, I believe, and that's the Anaheim Ducks, who, if we're unsure about the LA Kings, even though rebuilding, the Anaheim Ducks are definitely rebuilding. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that they're rebuilding, and I'm sad to see Ryan Miller say that he's going to retire at the end of the season. He should definitely start the last game of the season. John Gibson's played amazing as normal, and while his stats may be not be the best, he definitely impacts the game more than I think people realize. It's just hard to play consistently great when you don't have a supporting cast around you that can really uh, help you out, especially when you're a goaltender. You can't control how much your team scores and everything. The Ducks have a bright future with Zegras and Drysdale, but they're definitely a rebuilding team that is probably 2 years at least away from making another playoff push.
And now we head to the Central Division. At number one, we got Carolina, and Carolina is just playing really well right now. What are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, so Carolina, they've been a team all year that's really been inspiring. Jordan Stahl's having a year that nobody really expects, probably the best year of his career, and he's pretty old now. I definitely think they're the best team in this division. And while Tampa even won a Stanley Cup last year, the Kings are the team to beat in the Central.
Yeah, I agree with that. Tampa, they are playing really well. It's not the same to what they had last year and when they won the cup. But at number two, we have Tampa Bay. Vasilevsky is just playing well. He, of course, plays incredibly well versus the Stars. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so Vasilevsky's played amazing. He's always in contention for a Vezina Trophy whenever they hand those out. but I definitely anticipate for him to and the majority of this team to continue their success into the playoffs. They now have experience winning a cup and will definitely be a hard team to beat when it comes to the playoffs. Injuries have not helped them this year, and they are going to need some help from their fourth and third line if they want to continue the success. But I mean, they have a great team around them, and that's why they won a cup this last year and are definitely contenders this season.
Yeah, and now after the Tampa Bay Lightning, we have the Panthers, and the Panthers did lose Ekplot, but they got Sam Bennett, who I think has been playing well for them right now. Last time I watched him play. What are your thoughts right now on the Panthers?
Yeah, Sam Bennett's really been amazing for them this season. I've really been impressed by how much he's improved while being on a new team. I definitely think that the majority of this team does not have experience, and while I do think that may hurt them in the future, it won't be the worst thing in the world, especially as they have players like Patrick Hornquist and Sam Bennett who've been in the playoffs many times. Huberdeau and Barkov have always been amazing these past couple of years, and I definitely expect them to be the catalyst for this team as they try to make a run. But they really have. They're another team just like the West, like I mentioned, that are very top heavy. Three teams that are really contending for the one seed and for the entire division. And I think this rounds up those teams.
Yeah, and then we got that team fighting for the fourth. We have Dallas winning it. Dallas has just been on a tear. I believe we can attribute that to Jason Robertson. Also, Jake Ottinger, who's really stepped in to fill the backup goalies. It's tough to see if he's the starter or Hudobin is the starter, but a great thing for the Stars to see. And then hopefully Sagan can get back on the ice. But I think just seeing the young guys, Hintz, of course, Miro, and then Jason Robertson, and then you have Guryanov. And then Jamie Benn has really trying to will this team into the playoffs. I'm curious to hear what you think about the Stars right now.
Yeah, so the Stars have really played much better. It's had the Radulov out for the season, but the addition of Tyler Sagan should be a enough for this team to get the fourth spot in this division. While I don't think they're contenders for the cup like they were last year, they're probably a year away from getting back to really that uh, contender status because of all the injuries they've had, and they don't even have Bishop back this year. So I do think this team is better than the Predators or Blackhawks, who are really the only other teams that are contending for this last spot. But I don't really see how they could beat the Canes, Tampa, or Florida in the playoffs, especially if they stay injury prone.
Yeah, and it's tough to put. Like, you need really good goalies. Hudobin is struggling to get that form he had in the bubble. And then that's tough to just put on the rookie goalie, Ottinger. Now we move to the Nashville Predators, who we just have under the Stars. One thing that has been nice for the Predators is Eli Tolvanen has finally showed up for Nashville, and he is often the best offensive player during the second half resurgence. What are your thoughts on the Panthers?
Yeah, so you mean the Predators, right?
Yes, Predator. I'm so sorry. I mixed up my P's there once again.
Yeah, it's fine. But the Predators, yeah, Eurosaurus has definitely played much better at the second half of the season. It's the only reason why they are currently in the fourth spot. And will be the catalyst for if they do make that push to stay there. I just think the Predators just don't have the offense that Dallas has right now. The addition or the addition this season of Jason Robertson has really been a major factor of how the Stars have played this year, especially with their increased scoring. Pavelski's also had a much better season than he had last year and really picked up the scoring compared to the Predators, where they're more of a defensive team, and Roman Yossi's definitely not played as well as he did last year when he won the Norris.
Yeah, and now we go to a team that they're not a cat like the Panthers or the Predators. We go to the Chicago Blackhawks, who I think they could have decided to make a push, but they're definitely pushing for the future. Maybe they can be in the playoffs for next year. What are your thoughts on the Blackhawks right now?
Yeah, so I still think the Blackhawks have a chance to make a final push, especially with Patty Kane and the rest of this roster. DeBrinket's played well this year, and Lankinen's definitely a contender for the Calder, along with Jason Robertson and Kirill Kaprizov. I think those are the three best rookie players this year. But it was just impossible for Kane to keep it up. He was playing so well at the beginning of the season, and with his age and the fact that he is the best player by far on their team, it's really whether he's going to be shut down intentionally for making plays. and they're going to need a good run at the end of this year. They're going to have to probably win 7 out of the last 8 games for them to make it interesting. But they definitely have a chance and I cannot say that they don't have a chance when they have Patty Kane on their team.
Very true. Patty Kane is just incredible. Now we go to Detroit, who is hoping they can get a player. You can never get a player like Patty Kane, but get player or a few players that can have the type of impact to where they can go make a playoff push. But that will be a few more years. What are your thoughts on the Red Wings right now?
Yeah, so the Red Wings have definitely played better. They just won today against Tampa in the shootout. So they're definitely not the worst team in the league like they were last year. They've made some improvements. It's sad to see that Dylan Larkin's out for the year, their captain. But the addition of Rana during the Mantha trade has really improved. They definitely won that trade in my opinion, and at least they got something out of this season, even if it was a trade. They're definitely improving. Yzerman's made great moves in free agency and the draft and trade deadline. He's really hitting on all cylinders right now. And I definitely see in 1 or 2 years the Red Wings could be a special team.
And the team that is the worst team right now is Columbus, who made a trade earlier in the season with the Jets for Patrick Lane, and it is clearly not working out for him. What are your thoughts on the Blue Jackets right now?
Yeah, so Laine's not played well. Well, he's not played up to his standards. He's played well compared to other players, but he's just not been himself lately. And I don't know whether that's because of the coaching of Tortorella or him not feeling comfortable in his new setting. But it's really not worked out 100% to the Blue Jackets' liking. This will be the first time they missed the playoffs in a couple of seasons now, and I think it's 3 or 4 seasons. And the effect that this has had on Tortorella and the organization as a whole has really affected how they look to the future. Because before this season, when they had already made the playoffs and seemed like they may have a chance to beat Tampa in the playoffs, and it didn't. You could see that they had a bright future because of their goalie tandem and the fact that they had great defensive players in Zach Werenski and Seth Jones. But Seth Jones has had a very off season, and I'll be surprised if we don't see some big moves this off season.
What was your comment that you weren't sure of them not making the playoffs?
Yeah, for the first
They
time in 3 to 4 seasons.
yeah, it's 4 seasons. Just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure. So you're correct on that once again. Now we head to probably the Western Division is competitive, but this one's the most competitive. I think like 1 through 5 is really competitive. But at number 1, we have the Washington Capitals, who are definitely trying to get one more Stanley Cup. What are your thoughts on them right now?
Yeah, they made a trade for Mantha, and that was a win immediately trade. I don't think they even cared that they lost the trade long term because they want to win a championship, and sometimes that's how you have to win a championship. You lose a trade, but it in the short term gets you a ring. I do think they're the best team in this division. They're tied with points, and they played one less game than the Penguins. And the Chara and Mantha and the rest of the defense has really done well, along with Carlson, another defenseman. Their goaltending has played well too, and I definitely anticipate this team to be the team to beat. Even though, like you said, this team and all the teams at the top are really competitive, and the fact that there is a team that with a 569 point percentage and they're fifth compared to every other 4 seed is lower than that. Every other 4 seed is lower than the East 5 seed, which just proves that this is why the NHL should never do this again and should make it to where it's like it was last year in every other season. Well, not last year because of how COVID works, but in normal seasons, the Rangers would definitely make it without a question, and there wouldn't have to be this controversy of, well, why isn't one of the best teams in the league in compared to the other teams? Well, that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes, and so I guess we'll move on to the Penguins.
Yes, and the Penguins are second, as introduced by you. Really playing well. They're also a team that is definitely trying to get a Stanley Cup. I don't think as desperate as the Washington Capitals are, but definitely a team that is in the last few years of Crosby playing with them. What's your opinion?
Yeah, so I don't know last year's playing with him, but definitely at his prime and definitely where he can win them championships. Malkin's not having the season like he has had these past decade, but he is still playing well enough for them to win, and Rust and the rest of the crew are playing well. Chris Letang's had a much better season than everybody anticipated, and like you said, they traded Matt Murray, and they've really won the trade. Not only do they have to hold on to the cap room of Matt Murray, but also they trusted in their goaltending with Jarry and DeSmith, and it's really worked out. I think they're probably the second best team, as that's why we have them here. But um, again, the East is so good that I could see any of the top 5 teams making it out, and I wouldn't even bat an eye because of how competitive these teams are and the rivalries they have against each other.
Now we go to the team. I definitely know you are hoping they can stay in the playoff picture, and that is the Boston Bruins, who made Taylor Hall, and they definitely have some great weapons. What are your thoughts on the Bruins right now?
Yeah, so Marchand just got off from having the most goals in a month for a Bruin, and I think since 1982, 83 or something crazy like that. Um, he had 14 goals in 17 games, I believe, and he's really impressive. Bergeron's also played well this year, and I really have liked the addition of Hall. He's really, uh, I think, felt more comfortable here than he has in the Coyote system or the Buffalo system, and that's just because he's not the best scorer on the team, and it's Pasta, and so them having that. Uh, allows for him to be more comfortable in his own skin. Charlie McAvoy is I think a Norris contender, a top 5 Norris contender this year, and I've really liked Swayman. He's played well as a goaltender for us, and I've Tuukka Rask. I just really feel like the Bruins are another team, like we mentioned, that are uh, playing exceptional. And I hope Swayman is one of the 2 goaltenders at the end. His 162 goal against average is amazing, and I've really been impressed. And it's cool to see a goalie with number 1 on his jersey. Not normally what you see when a goaltender is in that.
Very true thing. Very true. I'm having trouble finding about Marchand, as you mentioned, for his record, but I will give you the benefit of the doubt on that one. But so, what are your thoughts on the New York Islanders?
Yeah, so while I'll talk, I'll be also looking this up to find out the what it is. 'Cause I saw it on NHL or PR NHL, but the Islanders are a great team defensively. That's coached by a person who won a Stanley Cup with the Capitals in 2018, Barry Trotz, and I definitely think they would probably be higher than the Bruins and probably the Penguins if Anders Lee didn't get injured. But I mean, injuries are a part of the power rankings, and um, I think they're going to be a team that's hard to beat. They're a team that doesn't allow goals, and their goaltending with Varlamov and etc. has played amazing this year. And I definitely expect for them to be uh, a hard out because any person who plays against them will really have to make sure that they uh, take advantage of all the opportunities they get on offense because they're not going to get many.
That's very true. And now we go to the Rangers, as you mentioned. They're not going to make it just because of how the season is going, but in a normal year, normal season, they would have made it. They've done well, and it looks like they're starting to move out of that rebuilding stage, and hopefully they can contend in future seasons when everything is normal. What are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, so the Rangers have played so much better, and they'd probably be above the Islanders right now or the Boston, depending on just how they started the season. Um, I just sent you on Instagram the post I was speaking of, and it's the most goals in a month by a Bruins player since 1982. So I was right, but 82-83 season, just like I said. But the Rangers really started off the season poorly, and that's the only reason why they're here. I'm really impressed by how they've really come together as a team, and that really all started against the Flyers, where they absolutely destroyed them like 9-0.
Yeah, so I gave you the benefit of the doubt, and you were correct. So we can go to the next team, and we got the Philadelphia Flyers, a team that is definitely hoping to get some. Did get some picks in the trade deadline, and they're hoping to add some good players in the future. What are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, and I think it's too early to worry about Carter Hart, who had a very down season, and is now out for the year with a MCL sprain. But they really self-combusted at the end of this season. I really anticipated for them to be a 1 or 2 seed this year, and they've really fallen off. It seems like Voracek and the rest, Claude Giroux, are going to have to wait another season to have the possibility of winning a championship. As I cannot see them making it over the Rangers, Boston, or the Islanders, who are the 3, 4, and 5, because of how well they're playing and how bad the Flyers are, consistently speaking, especially against the teams at the top of the division.
Yep, very true. Well said. And now we got the New Jersey Devils, who definitely not playing well, as they are definitely looking to rebuild. And Tom Fitzgerald said he viewed the team's present and future core to be Mackenzie Blackwood, Nico Hischier, Jack Hughes, and Ty Smith. So definitely looking for the future. What are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, so the Devils are really improving slowly but surely, and I definitely think they're going to be a team in the future that's going to be impressive. Nico Hischier is a very underrated player, and Jack Hughes has definitely improved over last season. Mackenzie Blackwood's been amazing, and Wedgwood even had a very good shutout against Boston earlier, so they have Blackwood and Wedgwood, and that's a good goalie tandem.
Yep, very true. Now we have Buffalo Sabres, and we've talked about their woes with their 18-game losing streak. But definitely looking towards the future. Had to give up Taylor Hall, and that's a tough thing for him to lose Taylor Hall after he had barely been with them for a season. What are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, so it technically wasn't a losing streak. It was a winless streak. They'd still lost games in overtime in a shootout. So they still got points. So you don't say, it's weird. They don't say losing streak. They say winless streak because they still get points. So you're not technically losing 100%, but you're still not winning. But yeah, they've had a very uninspiring season, and Jack Eichel is maybe on the trade block after this year, which is a really sad thing to see, just pending because of how good he is as a player.
Yeah, a very sad thing. And I believe that concludes our episode. Let us know your thoughts on our division power rankings. Make sure to leave us a review on Spotify if you know how to do it, or Apple Podcasts, or just a regular comment, and hit the like and subscribe button. Next episode will be a first round analysis and review of the mock draft, and we will explain the point systems. Thanks for listening to Outsiders Opinions.